West Coast King, and welcome to the brand new career series. It's been a while since I've done a FIFA series, and I'm excited to get back in and get started with this new project. We've been to England, we've been to Mexico, and now we have finally returned home stateside for an MLS career. Now, I said in the last episode of the INCOMPETECH career, I'd narrowed the prospects down for the series to 3 teams. We had Dallas, we had NYCFC, and we had Orlando City SC. And the team I have chosen to start this new career with is Orlando City. Now, the reason I've done this is because I just gotten out of a series, the INCOMPETECH series, where I had the best team in the league, and I only lost 1 game that entire season with Tigres. Dallas would be a very similar series to that, so I didn't want to go down that road again. So any Dallas fans that are pissed at me for not picking Dallas, it's actually a compliment. Your team is just too damn good for this series. I didn't want to go down that road again. Like I said, it got a little bit stale at the end of that Tigres series, so I didn't want to head down that road. On the other end of the spectrum, NYCFC is, in my opinion, I don't like that team. I would end up probably blowing that team up and starting over from scratch. I just don't like the way that team is built. There's just something about it that doesn't click with me. So I have a lot of problems with that one. I just didn't like the way that series would pan out. So I decided to avoid that one as well. And if you see my Major League 90 series, you would know that I really like the way that Orlando is going about building not only this team, but this franchise. I like the young players they have. I like the veterans that they've decided to bring in. I just like the way the whole team is built, and I like the direction that this team is heading, and I wanted to be a part of that. So I've decided with Orlando City, and I can't wait to get started with this team. So in this episode, episode 0, we're actually not going to be doing anything with this team as far as transfers go. Obviously, we can't because this is the MLS, and we don't get a starting transfer window. We have to wait till a couple months down the road before we hit our first transfer window. So that's out of the picture right away anyway, but we're not going to be playing any games or any of that in this episode. This is just to get to know the team a little bit and also set up how I want this series to go. So first, let's meet this team. This is the best starting 11, in my opinion, that I can put on the field. You can leave me some comments below with some suggestions, maybe change the formation. This was the default formation for Orlando City, so I've stuck with it for now. So if you have any ideas on how I can change it up and make it a little bit better, go ahead and leave me a comment below. But this is the team that I think we're going to start out with. It's Kyle Larin up top. He had a great first season for Orlando last year. Hopefully, I can duplicate that success with him in this series. Kaká in there behind him. The captain, of course, he's going to be in there. We have Rivas on the left, Sarin and Nocerino in the middle with Molino on the right. Across the back is Ramos, Colin, Hines, and Shea with Bendik. I don't know how to say that guy's name. He's from the United States, but is it Bendik? Is that how you say it? I don't really know, but he's going to be our goalkeeper, at least to start out with. On the bench, we have some names you may or may not know. I'm interested to get in and see what some of the younger players can give me, especially Christian Higuita and Harrison Heath. And actually, I'm taking over this manager role from Heath's father, Adrian Heath. He's actually the real-life coach of Orlando City, so hopefully Harrison's not going to get too pissed at me because I really want him to grow and be a part of this team. But either way, we'll see how that goes. And some of the other players, I know that Turner's a pretty good right-back prospect. I think he has potential maybe in the mid-70s, somewhere in there. And a couple other good players as well. I know this goalkeeper is supposed to be pretty good at some point, and I don't know how to say his name either. Stendahar? I don't know. Where's he from? From the United States? Okay, what the hell? What kind of name is that? Nope, he's Jeff. His name is Jeff. We'll just go with that. So that is the team that we have to start out this series with. So one of the rules that I want to put in place for this series is to try to make it as realistic as possible. I'm actually going to try to stick with a variation of the designated player rule that the MLS currently has in place. Now, the designated player rule in real life is supposed to be to allow teams to go outside of their salary cap to sign high-profile players from Europe and other places to raise the profile of the league. Now, we don't really have a salary cap, and if we did, we couldn't use outside funds beyond that because we don't have them in the game. So what I'm going to do with the designated player rule is to start out with any player that gets paid more than $40,000 per week in wages will be a designated player. Now, that's what we're going to start out with, $40K per week in wages, and we'll revisit that down the line somewhere. So we'll see what the rest of the league is doing. If they're bringing in higher profile players, getting paid a lot of money, then we'll go back and maybe we'll add a designated player, or maybe we'll raise the price of the designated player to say $60K per week in wages, so we can bring in better players that might get paid around $40K and not have to use a designated player spot on them. So right now we have 3 designated player spots. We're only allowed to have 3 players. that are paid more than 40K per week in wages. If I want to bring in another player paid that much, I have to get rid of one of the former ones. So actually, to start out with, we only have 2 players that are currently making at least 40K a week in wages. That would be Kaká, the team's actual first designated player, and Nocerino would be the other one. He's currently getting paid 40K per week in wages. Now, this team's real designated players are Kaká, Rivas, who makes 5K per week, and then a player way down here, Roquez, who makes 4K. So I don't know why they use designated player spots on those two, on Rivas and Roquez, but you know, it's what they wanted to do. We're not going to go down that route. Right now, we're going to say our only 2 designated players are Kaká and Nocerino, which actually leaves us open for a designated player spot when we hit that first transfer window. So we can make a big splash right away. So as the initial squad report rolls in the background, you can kind of see their attributes and get to know the team a little bit better before we start this series. I'm going to talk about the one other transfer rule that I'm going to put in place for this series, and that is I'm going to cap the number of players on the roster at 35. Currently, we have 30 players, and eventually I'm going to whittle that number back down to 30 and cap it there. For now, to start out with, I want to kind of give myself a little bit of wiggle room so I can make some moves right away without having to sell players right off the bat before I can make a move. So 35, at least for now. Eventually, we'll move it back down to 30. The designated player rule really kind of sets the tone for the number of players that we can bring in and the kind of players that we can bring in, and really kind of limits the number of really good players that we have on this team, which is very true to real life. If you remember back to the FIFA 15 series I did with the Sounders in the MLS, I had a whole bunch of different transfer rules and it got really complicated, and I ended up breaking a couple of my own rules, and I had to do punishments for that, and I just don't want to go down that road again. There were too many rules, too many exceptions and things like that to work with. This way, everything is very simple, and it kind of sorts itself out with the one rule being the designated player rule and then capping the number of players. So I think this series is going to work out really well. If you can think of anything that I missed, leave it in the comments below and I will have a look and see if it will work out for us. But that's really only transfer rules I'm going to have for this series, just those 2. So that is going to do it for episode 0. I can't wait to get in and start playing with this team. I've never used Kaká in any FIFA before, so I can't wait to see what the legend can do for this team and what I can do with him. Hopefully it's a partnership made in heaven. We'll have to see. But the first episode number 1, is going to be out Sunday, March 6th, the same day the MLS season gets kicked off in real life. I will, of course, be in Seattle for that, seeing the Sounders take on Sporting Kansas City, but that's an entirely different story. So that's going to do it for this one. If you had as much fun as I did, make sure to let me know by leaving a like below. Subscribe if you're new, and I will see you when we come back for the first episode with Orlando. See ya.